First of all, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're most cordially welcome to today's conference, and I want to welcome all the members of the press and express my appreciation for you to come here this morning, to share an experience with me of announcing a new prize for performing arts. In particular, I would like to welcome our honorary guests, Mrs. Delafour, I hope I'm pronouncing the names correct, Mr. Bengt Hall, and Mr. Torbjørn Eriksen. I think I should start with an apology, and that is that unfortunately I'm unable to speak your beautiful language. So I hope you can bear with me if we conduct this press conference in English. Now, the purpose of this foundation that has been founded by the late Birgit Nilsson was to award a prize for outstanding artistic achievements in the performing arts. It is in the amount of $1 million, and the details I will present to you in a moment after I run through a quick review of what Birgit Nilsson was about. Obviously, it will be very short, because I'm well aware of talking to Birgit Nilsson in Sweden, and especially to this audience, is like carrying a bucket of water to the ocean. So, just by a review, you all know that she had her debut at the Stockholm Opera in 1946, and in the 1950s quickly conquered the international scene, first debuts in Gleimper and Bayreuth in Vienna, shortly thereafter in North and South America, and from the mid-50s on, she really was a regular guest at all the major opera houses throughout the world. Just by way of example, 28 years alone at the Opera in Vienna, 22 years alone at the Metropolitan Opera in New York. Her repertoire was unusually wide. It ranged from Mozart over Wagner and Verdi to Puccini and Strauss. Yet I think it is fair to say that she set the most incomparable standards of singing and performing, in other words, in the dramatic arts, in the role of Brünnhilde, Isolde, Salome, Electra, the Dyer's wife Turandot, as well as others such as Tosca, Aida, and Macbeth, but especially the heavy dramatic roles by Wagner and Strauss became her hallmark, to the point where you could really say that she virtually owned these roles for an extended period of time. And so these roles became known in the business of opera as the so-called Nilsson repertoire. It was redundant to mention the operas. It was just the Nilsson repertoire. And fortunately, all of this is also left behind on an extensive discography. I think it's fair to say, without wanting to hurt anybody's feelings, that this kind of performance, as we just have heard, hasn't been heard since. Nothing of this sort has been heard since. And I would like to use this opportunity, which I think might describe her voice and her performance very well, by reading two quotes from the New York Times. I picked the New York Times because A, these two quotes that I'm giving you now are exemplary in describing her voice and her performance, and secondly, maybe one could argue that the Metropolitan Opera in New York was the place of her greatest triumphs next to Bayreuth, Vienna, and Milan. So the New York Times described her voice as following: there was never any sense of effort in singing. Volume and stamina seemed to come naturally. Therefore, one could bring lyricism and elegance to the most punishing roles, including Strauss's Electra and Wagner's Brünnhilde. She would meltingly shape pianissimo phrases as Wagner's Isolde, confident that her voice would carry to every corner of the house. I think this is a perfect description of her voice. And then as late as 1972, the New York Times reviewed her Electra, of which you've seen a video here, or a DVD of that performance, which was taped live, when the New York Times described it as follows. Moreover, in 1979, the New York Times judged Miss Nilsson's Electra, quote unquote, a vocal miracle, and wrote, at an age when most sopranos, much less dramatic sopranos, have long since called it quits, she remains able to pour out an immense volume of controlled tone. Her high notes still soar over the loudest orchestra climax. She is also able to throttle down to beautiful mezzo forte and piano singing. It was a triumph for her. And of course, she received an ovation at the end. I can vouch for this because I was fortunate enough to be there. After she retired from the opera stage in 1982 in the role of Electra, and from the concert stage in 1984, that is after 38 years of singing, most of the time in the heaviest repertoire you can imagine, she turned to teaching to pass her experience on to young students. She was very much concerned with maintaining the standard of singing, and she was, as you, I'm sure, aware, a very proud Swede, and in particular, she was very proud of the Swedish singing tradition. Her singing concern for the standard of singing carried into the future, and for that purpose, the Birgit Nilsson Foundation, which was established in the early 80s, was founded for the express purpose to award a prize for outstanding achievements in the performing arts. Specifically, the prize is for the amount of $1 million. It is to be handed out every 2 or 3 years, and it is focused on a singer, female or male, in the opera, concert, or oratorio segment of the classical arts. It is also possible to give it to a conductor who has earned great merits about opera, and to individual productions, but individual productions may be awarded the prize only if it's exceptionally cast and conducted, and above all, staged in the spirit of the composer. The prize may be split among 2 prize winners, but it may never be given to the same person twice. I would like to inform you that we have informed His Majesty the King of Sweden of this project on Tuesday, and hope very much that it will be possible to involve the royal family in awarding this prize, hopefully, and this is certainly our intention because we can't think of a better place than that, at a venue in Stockholm. The first prize is scheduled to be given out late in 2009, ideally around the date of her debut at the Stockholm Opera, that means October 9. We will have a jury. Oh, this is, excuse me, for one thing I left out. I want to point out that the first prize winner has been determined by Birgit Nilsson herself before her death. She left this in a sealed envelope, and the name of that person will be published in the first quarter of 2009. Thereafter, we will, according to her wishes, put together a jury of 5 to 6 prominent members of the classical music business. They can be critics, scientists, musical scientists, members of an opera house, whatever. We will try to find a jury that is high-powered, high-qualified jury, internationally composed, as was her career, to reflect her many positions and appearances she held throughout her career. So the award ceremony will be hopefully here. And when it's announced, maybe I can see you again. We'll see that. So in the meantime, I really want to thank you for your attention, or as you say in Sweden, and I hope I'm getting this right, tack så mycket. Is that correct?